The transport ship shuddered as it docked with Kepler-7 station. Jinwoo pressed his face against the small window and stared at the massive structure floating in space. The Galactic Military Academy stretched out like a metal city among the stars. Lights flickered across its surface like tiny diamonds. He had dreamed of this moment since he was 12 years old. The docking bay doors hissed open with a sound that echoed through the corridors. Jinwoo grabbed his single bag and stepped onto the platform. The artificial gravity felt different here. Lighter somehow. His stomach did a small flip as he adjusted to the change. Around him stood other new cadets from dozens of different worlds. He recognized some species from his studies back on Earth. The tall gray beings with 4 arms were Xanthari warriors. Their skin looked like natural armor plating. Each one stood nearly 8 feet tall. Their eyes glowed a soft blue in the dim station lighting. Jinwoo felt very small standing near them. A group of reptilian creatures stood in formation nearby. These were draconians. Their scales shifted colors from green to brown as they moved. Small wisps of smoke came from their nostrils when they breathed. Jinwoo knew they could survive in temperatures that would kill most other species. Their homeworld was closer to its sun than Earth was to its own. Crystalline beings that looked like living gemstones stood in another group. The Veltar species had transparent bodies that caught and reflected the station lights. Jinwoo could see energy patterns moving through their crystal forms like lightning and glass. They could interface directly with computer systems just by touching them. Then there were the humans. Jinwoo counted maybe 20 others like himself scattered around the docking bay. They looked ordinary compared to the alien species. No natural armor, no special abilities that could be seen from the outside, no impressive height or intimidating features. Just regular people who had somehow earned their way into the most elite military academy in the galaxy. A female voice spoke over the station speakers. All new cadets report to Orientation Hall 7. Follow the blue lights on the floor. Do not deviate from the marked path. Jinwoo followed the glowing blue strips that appeared on the metal floor. The corridors were huge. They had to be to accommodate species of different sizes. The ceiling disappeared into shadows above his head. Alien cadets moved around him like a river of different shapes and colors. The orientation hall was the size of a football stadium. Thousands of seats arranged in circles around a central platform. Jinwoo found an empty seat near the middle. A Xanthari cadet sat to his left. The alien's breathing sounded like wind through metal pipes. To his right sat another human, a young woman with short black hair and nervous eyes. "I'm Hana Kim," she whispered. "From Seoul originally. You look as scared as I feel." "Jinwoo Park," he replied quietly. "And yes, very scared." The lights dimmed and a figure appeared on the central platform. Commander Vex Thule was a draconian who stood nearly 9 feet tall. His scales were deep red with black markings that meant he was from a warrior caste. His voice boomed through the hall without any artificial amplification. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy. You are here because you represent the finest your species has to offer. Each of you has passed tests that eliminated millions of others. You should feel proud." The commander's yellow eyes swept across the assembled cadets. "However, pride will not help you survive what comes next. This academy has a 50% dropout rate. Half of you will fail. Half of you will return to your homeworlds in shame. Half of you are not strong enough to serve in the Galactic Defense Force." Jinwoo felt his mouth go dry. He had known the academy was difficult. Everyone knew that. But hearing it stated so bluntly made it feel real in a way that hurt his chest. "Your training will push you to the limits of your species' biology. We know exactly how much stress each species can handle. We know your pain thresholds. We know your breaking points. We will bring you to the edge of those limits and then push you just a little further." Commander Vex Thule touched a control pad, and holographic displays appeared above the cadets, charts and graphs showing different species' capabilities. Jinwoo saw human data listed among the others. The numbers made his heart sink. Humans ranked in the bottom third for strength, bottom quarter for speed, middle range for intelligence but nothing special. Their pain tolerance was listed as moderate. Their endurance was marked as average. According to these charts, humans were barely qualified to be here at all. "Some of you come from warrior species," the commander continued. "Your people have conquered worlds through strength and courage. Others come from species gifted with great intelligence or special abilities. You have advantages that have made your civilizations great." His gaze seemed to focus on the human section of the hall. "And some of you come from species that excel primarily at survival. You may not be the strongest or the fastest, but you are here because your species has something that impressed the Academy Selection Board. We intend to find out what that something is." Jin Woo felt heat rise in his cheeks. Around him he could hear whispers in dozens of different languages. Some sounded like they might be jokes. Others sounded like warnings. He caught a few words in languages he recognized. Soft species, support roles, technical positions. The orientation continued for another hour. Commander Vexthul explained the academy structure. Classes would cover military strategy, weapons training, physical conditioning, and leadership development. Each species would train according to their biological capabilities and expected roles in the Galactic Defense Force. Humans, the commander explained, showed aptitude for support positions. Technical roles, strategic planning. They would focus on these areas while other species handled direct combat responsibilities. When the orientation ended, cadets began filing out toward their assigned dormitories. Jin Woo walked slowly, still processing what he had heard. Hana Kim fell into step beside him. "Did you hear what they expect from us?" she asked quietly. "Support roles," Jin Woo replied. "They think we're too weak for real combat." "Maybe they're right," Hana said. "Look at us compared to them." She nodded toward a group of Zenthari cadets whose casual conversation sounded like rocks grinding together. Jin Woo stopped walking and turned to face her. "My grandfather fought in the Korean War. He was captured and tortured for 6 months. When they finally released him, he weighed 70 pounds and could barely walk. But he walked home, 20 miles through mountains in winter. The doctor said he should have died 5 different ways. What's your point?" Hana asked. "Maybe we don't look as strong as them," Jin Woo said, watching the alien cadets move through the corridors like living weapons. "Maybe we can't lift as much or run as fast, but my grandfather taught me that there are different kinds of strength. Sometimes the most important kind is the strength to keep going when everything says you should stop." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "My grandmother survived the Japanese occupation, then the war, then the rebuilding. She used to say that bamboo looks weak next to an oak tree, but when the storm comes, bamboo bends and survives while the oak tree breaks." They reached their dormitory assignments. Human cadets were housed together in a section designed for their biological needs. The rooms were smaller than those built for larger species, but they felt comfortable and familiar. Jin Woo set his bag on his narrow bed and looked out the window at the stars. Tomorrow their real training would begin. In a few weeks they would face their first major test. The academy instructors would learn what humans were truly capable of, and Jin Woo had a feeling they were going to be very surprised. The alarm screamed through the dormitory at 4 in the morning. Jin Woo rolled out of his bed and hit the cold metal floor with both feet. Around him, other human cadets stumbled in the darkness, reaching for their training uniforms. 3 weeks at the academy had taught them to move fast when the alarm sounded. "All cadets report to Training Bay 12 immediately," the voice announced over the speakers. "This is not a drill. You have 5 minutes." Jin Woo pulled on his boots and ran toward the door. Hana Kim appeared beside him, her hair still messy from sleep but her eyes alert. They had become close friends during their first weeks of training. She was quick with numbers and strategy. He was good at reading people and situations. Together they made a solid team. The corridors filled with cadets from every species. Zenthari warriors moved like flowing metal, their heavy footsteps echoing off the walls. Draconian cadets breathed small puffs of smoke as they ran, their internal body heat rising with excitement. The crystalline Veltar made musical sounds as their crystal bodies chimed against each other in the crowd. Training Bay 12 was enormous. The ceiling stretched up into shadows that the lights could not reach. Banks of computers lined the walls, their screens showing data streams in dozens of different languages. In the center of the bay stood a massive doorway that glowed with blue energy. Beyond the doorway, Jin Woo could see what looked like another world. Commander Vexthul stood on a raised platform above the assembled cadets. His red scales caught the light from the computers, making him look like he was made of living fire. His voice carried easily across the huge space. "Today you face the Crucible. This is the first major test of your abilities at this academy. Many of you will fail. Some of you will be injured. A few of you might not survive if you make serious mistakes." Jin Woo felt his stomach tighten. Beside him, Hana took a deep breath and let it out slowly. Around them, cadets from other species looked excited rather than worried. The Zenthari cadets were practically vibrating with anticipation. This was what they had trained for their entire lives. The Crucible is a multi-environment test, the commander continued. You will face extreme gravity, temperature changes, toxic atmospheres, and combat situations. Each challenge has been calibrated to push your species to exactly 85% of your known biological limits. Holographic displays appeared above the cadets showing different sections of the test. Jinwoo saw rooms with crushing gravity that would flatten a normal human. Temperature chambers that glowed like the inside of a furnace. Atmospheric processors that would fill the air with chemicals that burned the lungs. You will work in mixed species teams, Commander Vex Thule announced. Your team assignments are now displayed on your personal communicators. Find your team members and report to your assigned starting position. Jinwoo checked his communicator. Team 7. He looked around until he spotted the other members gathering near the wall. Hana was with him, which made him feel better. There was also Rax Molt, a Zenthari warrior who stood 8 feet tall and looked like he could punch through a steel wall. A draconian female named Kess whose scales shifted from green to brown as she moved. And 2 Veltar whose crystal bodies chimed softly when they walked. Rax looked down at the humans with what might have been amusement. So these are our support specialists, he said in a voice that sounded like grinding stone. Stay behind us when the real fighting starts. We will handle the dangerous work. We can handle ourselves, Jinwoo replied calmly. Rax laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. I am sure you will do your best. But this test was designed by warriors for warriors. Your species is better suited for technical work. The team moved through the glowing doorway and into the first section of the Crucible. The gravity hit Jinwoo like a physical blow. His knees buckled and he felt like someone had placed a crushing weight on his chest. The gravity was set for Zenthari normal, which was nearly 4 times Earth standard. Rax moved easily through the crushing gravity. His people had evolved on a heavy world where this felt normal. Kess the Draconian struggled more but kept moving forward with determination. The Veltar adapted by changing their crystal structure to become more dense and stable. Jinwoo forced himself to take 1 step forward, then another. Each movement felt like he was carrying another person on his back. Beside him, Hana moved with careful, measured steps. Her face was red with effort, but she kept pace with the team. Humans should wait here, Rax called back to them. This section is too dangerous for your species. Instead of stopping, Jinwoo picked up his pace. His muscles screamed in protest, but he pushed through the pain. Hana matched his speed, her breathing harsh but steady. They reached the gravity chamber exit only seconds behind the alien team members. The second section was a temperature challenge. The air temperature dropped to minus 30 degrees Celsius almost instantly. Jinwoo's breath came out in white clouds. Ice began forming on his uniform. The cold bit through his clothes and made his bones ache. Kess the Draconian moved through this section easily. Her internal body heat kept her warm even in the freezing air. Rax struggled more, his heavy breathing visible in white puffs, but his natural toughness carried him forward. The Veltar adapted again, their crystal bodies changing color to absorb more heat from their surroundings. Jinwoo and Hana moved slower than in the gravity section, but they kept moving. Their human bodies were not designed for extreme cold, but they had something the other species did not. They had learned to push through discomfort as a matter of survival. Earth had taught humanity to endure conditions that were not perfect. The third section filled with toxic gas that burned the throat and made the eyes water. The Veltar sealed their crystal forms against the chemicals. Kess could filter most toxins through her specialized lung system. Rax had natural resistance to most poisons. The humans had no special protection. The gas hit them like acid in their lungs. Jinwoo's eyes streamed with tears and his throat felt like it was on fire. Hana began coughing violently beside him. But they kept walking forward through the poisonous cloud. Rax turned back to check on them. His expression changed from amusement to concern. You should stop, he called through the toxic air. This level of exposure could cause permanent damage to your species. We're fine, Jinwoo replied, even though his voice came out as a hoarse whisper. By the time they reached the fourth section, Rax was no longer making jokes about human weakness. He had watched Jinwoo and Hana push through conditions that should have stopped them completely. They were not the strongest or the fastest, but they refused to quit. The combat section came next. Energy weapons fired stun blasts that simulated real battle conditions. Each hit delivered a shock of pain, designed to test how well each species could function while under attack. The weapons were calibrated for different nervous systems and pain tolerances. Rax charged into the combat zone like the warrior he was trained to be. His natural armor absorbed most of the energy blasts. Kes used her speed and agility to dodge between cover points. The Veltar coordinated their movements through their shared crystal network. Jinwoo and Hana moved more carefully through the combat zone. They used tactics rather than raw strength, cover and concealment, coordinated movement, strategic thinking. When Rax took a direct hit from an energy blast meant for Xanthari physiology, he dropped to one knee with a grunt of pain. Without hesitation, Jinwoo moved to help him. He grabbed Rax's massive arm and helped support the alien warrior's weight. Together they made it to the next cover position. "Why did you help me?" Rax asked as they crouched behind a metal barrier. "I called your species weak." "Because we're a team," Jinwoo replied simply. "That's what teams do." For the first time since they met, Rax looked at Jinwoo with something that might have been respect. The final section of the crucible was an endurance test. The team had to carry heavy equipment across a long obstacle course while maintaining communication and coordination. They had been in the test environment for 6 hours already. Most species would be approaching exhaustion. Rax was breathing heavily, his massive frame showing signs of fatigue. Kes moved more slowly than when they started, her internal heat making her sluggish. The Veltar had used significant energy adapting to each environment change, but Jinwoo and Hana looked tired but determined. They picked up pieces of equipment that the larger species had dropped and kept moving forward. When Rax stumbled under the weight of his assigned load, Jinwoo helped carry part of it without being asked. When they finally crossed the finish line, Team 7 was one of the first to complete the crucible successfully. But more importantly, they had done it together. Every member had contributed. Every member had been necessary for success. Commander Vexthul reviewed their performance data with interest. The humans had performed far better than predicted. They had not excelled in any single area, but they had remained functional in all areas. While other species showed peaks and valleys in their performance, the humans maintained steady progress throughout every challenge. As the team walked back to the dormitories, Rax spoke quietly to Jinwoo. "I owe you an apology. I was wrong about your species." "You weren't completely wrong," Jinwoo replied. "We're not the strongest or the fastest, but maybe that's not the only way to be strong." That night, word of Team 7's performance spread through the academy. The humans had not just survived the crucible. They had helped their team excel. And some cadets were beginning to wonder if there was more to the soft species than anyone had realized. 2 weeks after the crucible test, Jinwoo felt like he finally belonged at the academy. Other cadets nodded to him in the corridors. Some even asked for his help with strategy problems. The whispers about weak humans had mostly stopped. But he knew the real tests were still coming. The combat simulation chamber was the size of a city block. Holographic projectors could create any battlefield environment the instructors wanted. Today they had built an urban warfare scenario with tall buildings, narrow streets, and hidden sniper positions. The air smelled like smoke and metal. "This is a live fire exercise," Instructor Dane Voss announced to the assembled cadets. "You will be using stun rounds instead of lethal ammunition. These energy blasts are calibrated for each species' pain tolerance and nervous system response." Jinwoo checked his weapon and equipment. The stun rifle felt heavy in his hands but well balanced. Around him, cadets from different species prepared their own gear. Rax adjusted his massive combat armor. Hana programmed her tactical computer. The exercise would test everything they had learned about small unit tactics. "Each stun round delivers a measured dose of neural disruption," the instructor continued. "For most species, one direct hit will cause temporary paralysis and require medical evacuation from the exercise. 2 hits will result in hospitalization. 3 hits could cause permanent nerve damage." The instructor's eyes swept across the cadets. "The rounds are calibrated based on extensive testing of each species' biology. A stun round set for Xanthari physiology will drop a Xanthari warrior instantly. A round calibrated for human nervous systems will do the same to a human. The settings are precise and cannot be adjusted during combat." Jinwoo felt his mouth go dry. He had read about stun rounds in his training materials, but this was the first time he would face them in a realistic combat situation. The weapons were designed to simulate the effects of real battlefield trauma without causing permanent harm. Team 7 received their mission briefing. They had to assault a fortified building and secure the objective inside. Enemy forces controlled the high ground and had superior firepower. Success would require careful planning, precise execution, and probably some luck. "Remember," Rack said as they prepared to move out, "these stun rounds will put you down hard if they hit you. Stay in cover, move fast between positions, and watch your teammates' backs." The simulation began with the sound of distant explosions. Team 7 moved through the simulated city streets toward their objective. Jin Woo felt his heart racing as they approached the enemy position. Every window could hide a sniper. Every corner could conceal an ambush. They were halfway to the objective when everything went wrong. Energy blasts erupted from windows above them. The ambush was perfectly coordinated. Stun rounds filled the air like deadly lightning. The first blast hit Rax directly in the chest. The massive Zenthari warrior dropped like a falling tree, his body convulsing as the neural disruptor overloaded his nervous system. Kes tried to find cover behind a concrete barrier but took a hit to her shoulder. The draconian female collapsed with a scream that turned into a whimper as the stun effect spread through her system. The two Veltar cadets were hit almost simultaneously, their crystal bodies flickering and going dark as they fell. In seconds, Team 7 was down to just Jin Woo and Hana. Enemy fire continued to pour down from the buildings around them. They were pinned down with nowhere to run and no support coming. "We need to move," Hana shouted over the sound of energy weapons. "If we stay here, they'll pick us off one by one." Jin Woo nodded and prepared to sprint toward the next cover position. The distance was maybe 30 meters across open ground. 30 meters with enemy snipers firing down at them. It might as well have been 30 kilometers. He took a deep breath and ran. The first stun round hit him after 10 steps. The energy blast struck his back like a sledgehammer made of lightning. Pain exploded through his nervous system from his spine to his fingertips. His legs went numb and he stumbled forward, barely keeping his balance, but he kept running. The second hit caught him in the right shoulder as he dove for cover. This time the pain was so intense that his vision went white for a moment. He could taste metal in his mouth and his right arm felt like it was on fire. Every nerve ending in his body screamed in protest, but he made it to cover. "Jin Woo, you need medical evacuation," Hana called from her position. "No one can take 2 stun rounds and keep fighting." "I'm fine," he replied, even though his voice came out as a harsh whisper. "We need to reach that building." The instructors monitoring the exercise were checking their equipment. According to all their data, Jin Woo should have been unconscious after the first hit. The second blast should have put him in convulsions, but their sensors showed he was still moving, still thinking, still functional. "Equipment malfunction," one instructor muttered to another. "The stun rounds must be set wrong." "Negative," his partner replied, checking the calibration data. Both rounds fired at full Zenthari settings. "Direct hits, everything functioning perfectly." Jin Woo moved to the next position. This time he zigged and zagged as he ran, making himself a harder target. But the enemy snipers were good. A third stun round caught him in the leg just as he reached cover. The pain was beyond description. It felt like someone had poured liquid fire into his bones. His leg collapsed under him and he crawled the last few meters to safety. But he was still conscious, still thinking, still planning their next move. "This is impossible," one of the monitoring instructors said, staring at his readings. "He just took a stun round that would hospitalize a Zenthari warrior for weeks. How is he still moving?" The exercise continued. Jin Woo and Hana worked together to outflank the enemy positions. When a fourth stun round hit Jin Woo in the chest, he went down hard. For a moment, the instructors thought the effect had finally taken hold. Then, Jin Woo pushed himself back to his feet and kept advancing. Fifth round caught him in the back as he climbed through a window into the target building. The energy discharge was visible, crackling across his body armor like blue lightning. He fell to his knees inside the building, his whole body shaking from the neural disruption. Hana reached him and helped him to his feet. "You have to stop," she said urgently. "This is killing you." "Not yet," Jin Woo replied through gritted teeth. "We're almost there." The sixth hit came as they moved through the building corridors. This time Jin Woo did not fall. He staggered against the wall, left a bloody handprint on the metal surface, and kept walking. His movements were unsteady now, like someone walking through deep water, but he was still functional. The seventh and final stun round hit him just as they reached the objective room. The blast should have been the one that finally put him down for good. Instead, Jinwoo absorbed the impact, secured the objective marker, and activated the mission completion signal. When the exercise ended, alarms began sounding throughout the combat chamber. Medical teams rushed in expecting to find Jinwoo in critical condition. Instead, they found him sitting against a wall, breathing heavily but alert and responsive. "How do you feel, Cadet?" the medical officer asked, running a scanner over Jinwoo's body. "Like I got hit by a truck," Jinwoo replied honestly. "Actually, like I got hit by 7 trucks. But I can still walk. I can still think. I'm ready to continue training if you need me to." The medical officer stared at his scanner readings in disbelief. Jinwoo's stress markers were elevated, and his nervous system showed signs of trauma but nothing life-threatening. Nothing that required immediate medical intervention. According to the readings, he should be able to return to normal duty within hours. Word of what happened spread through the academy like wildfire. Cadets gathered in small groups, whispering about the human who took 7 stun rounds and kept fighting. Some called it impossible. Others called it frightening. A few called it inspiring. The instructors were already calling emergency meetings to review the exercise data. Computer technicians were running diagnostics on every piece of equipment used in the simulation. Everyone wanted to understand how a human cadet had functioned far beyond what any species should be able to endure. Rax found Jinwoo in the medical bay later that evening. The Zenthari warrior still looked shaky from his single stun round hit hours earlier. His blue eyes glowed with confusion and something that might have been fear. "I owe you another apology," Rax said quietly. "When I called humans weak, I was not just wrong. I was blind. What you did today was not human, it was superhuman." "No," Jinwoo replied, flexing his fingers to make sure they still worked properly. "What I did today was completely human. My species has been taking hits and keeping going for thousands of years. We just never thought it was special because for us it's normal." Rax stared at him for a long moment. "If taking 7 stun rounds and remaining functional is normal for humans, then what else don't we know about your species?" Jinwoo looked out the medical bay window at the stars beyond. "I don't know, but I think you're all about to find out." That night, Jinwoo lay in his bed staring at the ceiling. His body ached from the stun rounds, but he could not sleep. He kept thinking about what Rax had said. Superhuman, but it did not feel superhuman to him. It felt like something any human would do when their team needed them. Outside his window, the stars looked the same as they always had. But Jinwoo knew that something fundamental had changed at the academy today. The other species were starting to understand that humans might not be the weak support species they had assumed. And honestly, that scared him a little bit. Because if the galaxy was just now learning what humans could endure, what would they think when they learned what humans could do when they stopped holding back? Dr. Yenna Park had been the Academy's human medical officer for 3 years. In that time, she had treated hundreds of human cadets for everything from broken bones to stress reactions. She thought she understood human physiology better than anyone else at the Academy, but the data on her screen made no sense at all. "Run the scans again," she told her assistant, a young Veltar whose crystal body pulsed with soft blue light as it interfaced with the medical computers. "I have run them 4 times. Doctor?" The assistant replied in a voice like wind chimes. "The results are consistent. Cadet Jinwoo's nervous system shows exposure to 7 high-intensity neural disruptors, but his brain function remains normal. His motor control is unimpaired. His pain responses are within acceptable ranges." Dr. Park stared at the holographic display showing Jinwoo's brain activity. By all known medical science, he should be in a coma. The amount of neural disruption he had absorbed would leave most species with permanent damage. Some might never wake up at all. Instead, Jinwoo sat on the examination table looking tired but alert. His hands were steady when he reached for the water cup she offered him. His speech was clear when he answered her questions. It was as if the stun rounds had barely affected him at all. "How do you feel right now, Jinwoo?" she asked in Korean, switching to their native language. "Sore all over," he replied honestly. "Like I did a really hard workout and then got punched by a giant. But nothing feels broken or damaged. Just bruised." Dr. Park had called for this examination after hearing about the combat exercise. The report seemed impossible. No species could absorb that much neural disruption and remain functional. There had to be an explanation. Commander Vex Thule entered the medical bay with 2 other instructors. His red scales looked darker than usual, a sign that he was agitated about something. Behind him walked Professor Kelm Thray, the Academy's chief xenobiology specialist, and Captain Ross Chen, the human liaison officer. Dr. Park, the commander said without preamble. I need answers. My instructors are telling me that a human cadet absorbed enough neural disruption to kill a draconian warrior. They say he not only survived but remained combat effective. I need to know if this is some kind of equipment failure, or if we have fundamentally misunderstood human capabilities. Dr. Park gestured to her data displays. The equipment functioned perfectly, Commander. I have verified this multiple times. Cadet Jin Woo was hit by 7 stun rounds, each calibrated for Xanthari physiology. Each round delivered exactly the expected amount of neural disruption. Then how is he sitting here talking to us? Professor Thray asked. The elderly alien's 4 eyes blinked independently as he studied Jin Woo with scientific curiosity. According to our biological database, humans have moderate pain tolerance and average nervous system resilience. They should not be able to withstand this level of trauma. Captain Chen, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Maybe our database is incomplete. Humans have only been part of the galactic community for 50 years. Most of our biological data comes from medical examinations during the first contact period. Explain, Commander Vex Thule ordered. Dr. Park pulled up additional screens showing comparative species data. I've been reviewing our assumptions about human biology. We classified humans as having moderate pain tolerance based on their reaction to standardized pain stimuli, but we may have been measuring the wrong thing. She highlighted sections of data as she spoke. Other species experience pain and immediately respond to eliminate or escape from it. This makes sense from an evolutionary perspective. Pain signals damage, so avoiding pain prevents further harm. That is logical, Professor Thray agreed. All known species follow this pattern. But humans evolved differently, Dr. Park continued. They developed on what we call a death world. Everything on Earth was trying to kill everything else. Predators, diseases, natural disasters, climate changes. Humans could not always escape from pain or danger. Sometimes they had to endure it and keep functioning. Jin Woo listened to the conversation with growing understanding. My grandfather used to tell stories about his time in the war. He said pain was just information. It told you something was wrong, but it didn't tell you to stop. Stopping was a choice you made separately. Commander Vex Thule's eyes narrowed. Are you saying humans can choose to ignore pain? Not ignore it, Jin Woo replied carefully. We feel it just as much as anyone else, but we can put it in a different part of our minds while we focus on what needs to be done. It's like having a radio playing in the background. You can hear it, but you don't have to listen to it. Professor Thray moved closer, his scientific excitement obvious. This suggests a fundamental difference in nervous system architecture. Most species have evolved pain responses as immediate behavioral controls, but humans appear to have developed pain tolerance as a survival mechanism. Dr. Park nodded and brought up new data. I've been researching historical human medical records. Humans regularly function with injuries that would incapacitate other species. Broken bones, severe lacerations, internal bleeding. They have documented cases of humans performing complex tasks while experiencing trauma that should have rendered them unconscious. There's also the psychological component, Captain Chen added. Human culture celebrates endurance under adverse conditions. We tell stories about people who kept going when they should have given up. We consider it heroic to push through pain and hardship. Commander Vex Thule was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. If this is true, then we have been grossly underestimating human capabilities. Our entire training program is based on pushing each species to their biological limits. But if humans can function beyond what we considered their limits, it means the limits we measured were not their actual limits, Professor Thray finished. We measured the point where they experienced significant pain, not the point where they became non-functional. Dr. Park pulled up another set of scans. I've also discovered something else interesting. Human nervous systems show remarkable redundancy. They have backup pathways for critical functions that other species lack. When one neural pathway is disrupted, others can compensate. She pointed to highlighted areas of Jin Woo's brain scan. Look at this. The stun rounds damaged specific neural pathways, but his brain automatically rerouted critical functions through undamaged areas. It's like having multiple power grids for a city. If one goes down, the others keep the lights on. How widespread is this capability? Commander Vex Thule asked. Is Cadet Jinwoo exceptional among humans, or is this typical for your species? Jinwoo thought about this carefully. I don't think I'm special, sir. Any human would have done the same thing in that situation. We were taught from childhood that you don't quit on your team. You don't stop fighting when people are counting on you. That's just how we're raised, Captain Chen nodded. Human military history is full of examples. Soldiers fighting with mortal wounds, pilots flying damaged aircraft home, sailors keeping ships afloat in impossible conditions. What looks like exceptional heroism to other species is considered normal duty performance for humans. The implications of this revelation hung heavy in the air. If humans could function far beyond their presumed biological limits, then every assessment of their military value was wrong. They were not support specialists who needed protection from real combat. They were potentially the most resilient warriors the galaxy had ever seen. We need to conduct additional tests, Professor Thray said finally. With volunteer subjects and careful monitoring, we need to understand the full extent of human capabilities. Agreed, Commander Vex Thule replied, but carefully. If word of this spreads before we understand it fully, it could destabilize the entire galactic military structure. Some species have built their identity around being the strongest or toughest warriors. Learning that humans might exceed them in endurance could create political problems. Dr. Park saved her data files and closed the displays. I'll prepare a comprehensive analysis of human biological capabilities based on this new understanding. But I suspect we're only seeing the tip of the iceberg. As the meeting broke up, Jinwoo remained on the examination table thinking about what he had heard. All his life he had been told that humans were physically inferior to most galactic species. But maybe they had been measuring the wrong things. Maybe endurance was more important than strength. Maybe persistence was more valuable than speed. Maybe the ability to keep going when everything hurt was the most useful survival trait of all. That evening, word of the medical examination began to spread through the academy. Cadets whispered in corridors about the human who had redefined what was considered biologically possible. Some were curious. Others were worried. A few were afraid. Jinwoo found Hana in the common area, studying tactical manuals on her computer pad. Did you hear what they're saying about you? She asked without looking up from her reading. Some of it, Jinwoo replied, sitting down beside her. They're calling me some kind of superhuman freak. Hana finally looked at him, her expression serious. Are you? Different from other humans, I mean? Jinwoo considered this. I don't think so. Do you think you could have done what I did in that exercise? Yes, Hana answered without hesitation. If my team needed me to. If people were counting on me, I would have kept going too. Then I'm not special, Jinwoo said. I'm just human. The question is, what happens when the rest of the galaxy figures out what that really means? The next morning brought new developments. 3 more human cadets volunteered for additional testing under controlled conditions. Each one demonstrated similar capabilities to Jinwoo, though none pushed themselves quite as far as he had during the combat exercise. The results were consistent and undeniable. Humans could function far beyond their supposed biological limits when properly motivated. The revelation sent shockwaves through the Academy's command structure and began to filter up to the highest levels of the Galactic Defense Force. Jinwoo went about his regular training routine, but everything felt different now. Instructors watched him with new interest. Other cadets approached him with questions about human capabilities. Some seemed excited by the possibilities. Others appeared worried about what human endurance might mean for their own species' military roles. The galaxy was beginning to understand that they had seriously underestimated humanity, and Jinwoo was starting to realize that his simple desire to help his team had started something much larger than he had ever intended. The Academy dining hall buzzed with tension 3 days after the combat exercise. Jinwoo could feel eyes following him as he carried his food tray to an empty table. Conversations stopped when he passed certain groups of cadets. Some stared with curiosity. Others looked away quickly when he noticed them watching. The news of what happened had spread through every level of the academy. Instructors whispered in meeting rooms. Cadets debated in their dormitories. Everyone had an opinion about the human who took 7 stun rounds and kept fighting. Not all of those opinions were positive. Jinwoo sat down to eat his lunch alone. The dining hall was designed to accommodate different species' nutritional needs, so the human section was relatively small. Usually it was filled with the 23 human cadets at the academy. Today it was nearly empty. Hana appeared beside his table carrying her own tray. "Mind if I sit with the famous superhuman?" she asked with a slight smile. "I'm not superhuman," Jinwoo replied as she sat down. "I'm just stubborn. There's a difference." "Try telling that to everyone else," Hana said, nodding toward the rest of the dining hall. "Half the academy thinks you're some kind of secret weapon that humans have been hiding. The other half thinks you're a freak accident that proves humans don't belong here." As if to prove her point, a group of Zenthari cadets at a nearby table stood up and moved to seats farther away. One of them glanced back at Jinwoo with what looked like suspicion or fear. These were the same cadets who had ignored humans completely just a week ago. "I heard some of the draconian cadets talking yesterday." Hana continued quietly. "They're saying that if humans can absorb that much punishment and keep fighting, maybe all our species assessments are wrong. Some of them are wondering what other capabilities humans have been hiding." Jinwoo pushed his food around on his plate without much appetite. "We haven't been hiding anything. We just never thought our normal abilities were special." "That's exactly what's scaring them," Hana replied. "If what you call normal is superhuman by their standards, what does that say about their own warrior cultures?" The conversation was interrupted by a large shadow falling across their table. Raxmolt stood beside them, his massive frame blocking out the overhead lights. The Zenthari warrior looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot. "Jinwoo," Rax said in his rumbling voice, "may I speak with you privately?" Jinwoo looked up at his teammate. Since the combat exercise, Rax had been distant and formal. Gone was the easy camaraderie they had built during the Crucible test. Something had changed in how the alien warrior viewed him. "You can talk here," Jinwoo replied. "Hana was there too. She deserves to hear whatever you want to say." Rax glanced around the dining hall, noting the attention they were receiving. Perhaps somewhere more private would be better. They found an empty study room in the academic wing of the academy. Rax sealed the door and activated the privacy screens before turning to face the two humans. His blue eyes glowed with inner light, a sign of emotional stress in his species. "I need to understand something," Rax began without preamble. "My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We conquered 12 worlds through strength and courage. Our children learn to fight before they learn to walk. War is in our blood, in our bones, in our very souls." Jinwoo waited for him to continue, sensing that Rax was struggling with something important. "But watching you in that combat exercise changed everything I thought I knew about strength." Rax continued. "You took punishment that would have killed me. You kept fighting when I was helpless. You saved our mission when I had failed." The Zenthari warrior's voice grew quieter. "For my entire life I believed that my species were the ultimate warriors. We are bigger, stronger, tougher than almost every other species we have encountered. But if a human can endure what you endured, what does that make us?" Jinwoo studied his teammate's face, seeing genuine distress there. "It makes you exactly what you've always been, Rax. A brave warrior from a proud people. Nothing about that has changed." "Everything has changed," Rax replied forcefully. "If humans can function beyond their supposed biological limits, then maybe every species can. Maybe the limits we accept are just in our minds. Maybe we've been weak this entire time and never knew it." Hana leaned forward in her chair. "Or maybe different species have different kinds of strength. Maybe being the biggest and strongest isn't the only way to be powerful." Rax turned his glowing eyes toward her. "Explain." "Your people conquered 12 worlds through direct military force," Hana said. "That's an incredible achievement that required tremendous courage and skill. But humans took over an entire planet without conquering anyone. We did it through adaptation, cooperation, and persistence." She stood up and began pacing as she talked. "Earth tried to kill humans for millions of years. Ice ages, volcanoes, diseases, predators, natural disasters. Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But humans survived by being flexible, by helping each other, by refusing to give up even when giving up was the logical choice." Jinwoo nodded, understanding her point. "We're not stronger than you, Rax. We're just strong in a different way. You can lift more weight, hit harder, take more physical damage, but we can keep going longer under conditions that would break most minds." "Is that why you helped me during the Crucible?" Rax asked. "When I was hit by that stun round and could barely move, you supported my weight and helped me reach cover. Why would you risk yourself for someone who had called you weak?" Jinwoo thought about this carefully. "Because that's what humans do. When someone needs help, you help them. It doesn't matter if they're stronger or faster or smarter than you. It doesn't matter if they've been rude to you. What matters is that they need help and you can provide it. Rax was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. My people would call that weakness. Helping someone who cannot help themselves shows that they are not worthy of survival. And my people would call that cruelty. Jinwoo replied without judgment. Abandoning someone who needs help shows that you value individual strength more than collective survival. Both approaches have advantages, Hana added diplomatically. Zenthari warrior culture creates incredibly strong individuals who can handle extreme challenges alone. Human cooperative culture creates resilient groups that can survive almost any crisis together. Rax sat down heavily in one of the study room chairs, his massive frame making the furniture creak. I have been thinking about this for 3 days. In all our warrior traditions, strength is measured by what you can endure alone, but humans seem to measure strength by what you can endure for others. Maybe that's why I could take those stun rounds. Jinwoo said thoughtfully. I wasn't thinking about the pain or the damage. I was thinking about Hana counting on me, about our mission, about not letting the team down. The pain was just something I had to get through to reach the important stuff. That makes no logical sense, Rax said, but his tone was curious rather than dismissive. Pain is a warning system. It tells you to stop before you cause permanent damage to yourself. Unless the thing you're trying to protect is more important than your own physical well-being, Hana replied. Humans will endure incredible pain to save their children, their friends, their communities. We call it love, and it makes us stronger than our biology says we should be. Rax stared at them both for several minutes without speaking. Finally, he asked, Would you teach me? Teach you what? Jinwoo asked. How to think like a human, Rax replied. How to put the mission and the team above your own comfort. How to endure pain because something else matters more than your own physical state. Jinwoo and Hana exchanged glances. It's not really something you can teach, Hana said gently. It's more like a way of seeing the world. You have to care about other people as much as you care about yourself. I want to try, Rax said firmly. My warrior training taught me to be strong alone, but I saw what human strength looks like when it's connected to something larger. I want to understand that kind of power. Over the following days, word spread that Rax Molt was spending time with the human cadets, asking questions about their culture and philosophy. Some Zenthari cadets were scandalized. Others were curious. A few began having quiet conversations with humans themselves. The change was not limited to Rax. Throughout the academy, cadets from different species began reassessing their assumptions about human capabilities. Some approached with respect and curiosity. Others kept their distance, uncertain about what humans might be capable of if they stopped holding back. Jinwoo found himself in an uncomfortable position. He had not wanted to become famous or to represent all of humanity. He just wanted to be a good cadet and serve in the Galactic Defense Force. But now his every action was watched and analyzed for signs of hidden human abilities. The instructors were paying attention too. Training exercises were being modified to account for the possibility that human limits were higher than previously measured. Some cadets complained that the changes were unfair. Others argued that the training should have been harder all along. One evening, as Jinwoo walked back to his dormitory after a particularly grueling tactical exercise, he found Commander Vex Thule waiting for him in the corridor. Cadet Jinwoo, the Draconian officer said formally, I need to speak with you about your future at this academy. Jinwoo felt his stomach tighten. Yes, sir. Your performance has raised questions at the highest levels of the Galactic Defense Force, the commander continued. Some officials believe that humans have been deliberately concealing their true capabilities. Others think you represent a genetic anomaly that should be studied rather than trained. And what do you think, sir? Jinwoo asked. Commander Vex Thule's scales shifted color slightly, a sign of deep thought. I think you are exactly what you appear to be. A young human who refuses to quit when his team needs him. But I also think the galaxy is not ready for what that means. He paused, studying Jinwoo's face. Changes are coming, Cadet. The way we think about species capabilities, military roles, and warrior cultures. Your actions have started something that cannot be stopped. I hope you're prepared for the consequences. As the commander walked away, Jinwoo stood alone in the corridor thinking about what he had started. He had just wanted to help his team complete their mission. But apparently that simple human desire to not let people down was going to change everything. The next few weeks would bring new challenges as the Academy and the broader galactic community struggled to understand what human endurance really meant. Jin Woo could only hope that the changes would be for the better. Because ready or not, the galaxy was about to learn what humans were truly capable of when they stopped accepting other people's limitations. The Academy's grand tournament came 6 weeks after Jin Woo's incident with the stun rounds. Every year, mixed species teams competed in extended operations that tested everything they had learned. This year felt different. The betting pools had changed. The favorite teams were no longer the obvious combinations of warrior species. Jin Woo stood with his team in the preparation area, checking their equipment one final time. Team 7 adapted to each challenge as it came, with humans providing the steady backbone that kept everyone moving forward. The third day tested psychological endurance. Sleep deprivation, constant low-level threats, and mounting pressure began to break down team coordination across the tournament. Jin Woo watched through his binoculars as a team of elite Zenthari warriors made a critical tactical error, exposing themselves to enemy fire because fatigue had clouded their judgment. "How are you still thinking clearly?" Kes asked Jin Woo as they planned their approach to the final objective. Her scales had shifted to a dull brown color that indicated exhaustion. "We have been awake for 60 hours. My mind feels like it is full of sand." "Practice," Jin Woo replied honestly. "Humans have been staying awake for days when necessary for thousands of years. Hunting trips that lasted weeks. Wars that went on for years. Taking care of sick children who needed constant attention. Our brains learned to keep working even when our bodies wanted to shut down." The final objective was a fortified position that required careful coordination to assault successfully. Teams that had started strong were now making desperate attacks with depleted forces. The tournament arena was littered with the glowing markers that indicated eliminated participants. Team 7 approached their target with the same methodical patience they had shown throughout the tournament. They were not the fastest or the strongest team remaining, but they were still functioning as a unit, while other teams had devolved into collections of exhausted individuals. Multiple defensive positions. The Veltar scouts reported through their crystal communication network. "Enemy forces are well prepared and have clear fields of fire on all approaches. Standard assault would require superior firepower to overcome prepared defenses," Rax observed. "But we do not have enough ammunition for a direct attack." Jin Woo studied the tactical situation, while his teammates waited for orders. 3 days of constant pressure had established him as the team's primary decision-maker, not because of rank but because his judgment remained clear when others were struggling with fatigue. "We don't assault," Jin Woo decided. "We outlast them." The plan was simple but required patience that most species would find impossible. Team 7 established positions around the objective and began a siege. They did not attack. They did not expose themselves to enemy fire. They just waited and maintained pressure. Hours passed. The defenders, programmed to expect aggressive assaults, began making increasingly desperate attempts to break the siege. Each sortie was met with carefully coordinated fire that forced them back with minimal ammunition expenditure. As the tournament entered its final hours, other teams launched desperate attacks on their objectives. The sounds of combat echoed across the arena as exhausted cadets threw themselves against prepared defenses. Most failed. A few succeeded through sheer determination and sacrifice. Team 7's siege continued. The humans sustained the team's morale through the grinding tedium of waiting. When Rax began showing signs of psychological strain from the prolonged inactivity, Jin Woo engaged him in quiet conversation about Zenthari military history. When Kes started making small errors in judgment due to fatigue, Hana took over the tactical calculations that required precise thinking. The breakthrough came when the defenders finally made a critical mistake. Frustrated by the siege and pressured by their programming to resolve the situation, they launched a coordinated assault on Team 7's positions. "Now," Jin Woo said calmly, "the counterattack was perfectly coordinated. 3 days of working together under stress had turned Team 7 into a precision instrument. They moved with practiced efficiency, each member knowing exactly what the others would do. The objective fell in minutes. When the tournament ended, Team 7 had not only won their competition, but set records for sustained performance and resource efficiency. More importantly, they had demonstrated a new model for military operations that emphasized persistence and cooperation over individual heroics. Commander Vex Thule found Jin Woo in the medical bay after the tournament. undergoing the mandatory post-competition health evaluation. The human was tired but alert, showing none of the severe exhaustion that had hospitalized cadets from other teams. "Cadet Jin Woo," the commander said formally, "I have received new orders regarding human military assignments. Based on recent performance evaluations, humans are being reassigned from support roles to frontline combat positions." Jin Woo looked up from the medical scanner with surprise. "Sir?" "The Galactic Defense Force has concluded that previous assessments of human capabilities were inadequate," Commander Vex Thule continued. "Your species demonstrates unique advantages in extended operations and high-stress environments. Command wants to explore how these capabilities can be integrated into military doctrine." The implications hit Jin Woo immediately. What about the other species? How do they feel about humans taking on combat roles that were traditionally theirs? The commander's scales shifted color slightly. "There is resistance from some quarters. Concern that human capabilities have been deliberately concealed. Fear that established military hierarchies will be disrupted. But there is also recognition that warfare is changing, and adaptability may be more valuable than traditional strength." Over the following weeks, news of the tournament results spread throughout the galactic community. The footage of Team 7's methodical victory was analyzed by military strategists across dozens of worlds. Some saw the future of warfare and human-style persistence. Others saw a threat to their species' traditional military roles. New human cadets arriving at the academy found a very different environment than Jin Woo had encountered months earlier. They were no longer automatically assigned to support positions. Their training was calibrated to challenge their actual capabilities rather than assumed limitations. Most importantly, they were viewed with a mixture of respect and cautious interest rather than dismissive pity. Jin Woo found himself in the unusual position of being a symbol for human potential. Younger cadets asked him for advice. Instructors studied his performance for insights into human psychology. Other species approached him with questions about human culture and capabilities. "Do you ever regret what happened?" Hana asked him one evening as they sat in the Academy's observation lounge, watching stars wheel slowly past the windows. Jin Woo considered this carefully. "I regret that it had to happen at all. I wish the galaxy had understood what humans could do without me having to nearly get myself killed to prove it." "But you're not sorry you did it?" "No," Jin Woo replied firmly. "My team needed me to keep going, so I kept going. That's what humans do. I just wish everyone else had known that from the beginning." The conversation was interrupted by Rax Molt, who approached their table with the careful respect he had shown Jin Woo since the stun round incident. "Jin Woo," the Zenthari warrior said, "I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For teaching me that there are different ways to be strong," Rax replied. "My people measure strength by what you can endure alone, but humans measure strength by what you can endure for others. I understand now that both kinds of strength have value." As Rax walked away, Jin Woo reflected on how much had changed since his arrival at the academy. The galaxy was slowly beginning to understand that humans were not the weak support species they had assumed. They were something much more dangerous and valuable, a species that refused to quit when others were counting on them. The stars outside the window looked the same as they always had, but Jin Woo knew that humanity's place among them had fundamentally changed. When a human took a hit that would hospitalize most species and kept walking, it was not superhuman endurance. It was just Tuesday for humanity. And the galaxy was finally beginning to understand what that meant, had been kept together after their success in previous exercises. Rax Molt looked confident and determined. Kes, the draconian female, moved with lethal grace. The two Veltar hummed in harmony as they synchronized their crystal matrices. And Hana Kim ran through tactical calculations on her portable computer. "Final briefing," Commander Vex Thule announced to all assembled teams. "This tournament will test sustained performance over 72 hours of continuous operations. You will face sleep deprivation, resource limitations, environmental hazards, and constant tactical challenges." The commander's red scales caught the artificial lighting as he moved between the teams. Previous tournaments have been won through superior firepower or individual heroics. This year's challenges are designed to test different qualities: endurance, adaptation, team cohesion under extended stress. Jin Woo caught Hana's eye and saw his own understanding reflected there. The tournament had been redesigned with human capabilities in mind. The Academy was testing whether human-style persistence could compete with traditional warrior strength. Team assignments are final, the commander continued. No substitutions will be allowed once the tournament begins. Medical evacuation results in automatic team disqualification. You succeed together or fail together. The teams entered the tournament arena through separate gateways. The environment was a massive simulation of contested territory, with multiple climate zones, urban areas, and wilderness regions. Somewhere in that artificial world were objectives that each team had to locate and secure. Team 7's first challenge came 8 hours into the tournament. They had been moving steadily through difficult terrain, maintaining a pace that other teams would have considered slow. But while faster teams had already stopped twice for extended rest periods, Team 7 continued their methodical advance. Contact front, Kess reported from her position as point scout. Enemy automated defenses blocking the canyon approach. Jin Woo moved forward to assess the situation. Energy barriers stretched across the narrow canyon, creating a deadly obstacle course. The barriers moved in unpredictable patterns, opening and closing gaps that would allow passage for maybe 3 seconds at a time. Standard approach would be to wait for a large gap and rush through with superior speed, Rax observed. But the pattern shows no gaps large enough for our entire team. Then we go through one at a time, Jin Woo replied, studying the barrier movements. Careful timing. Steady nerves. No rushing. Other teams had reached similar obstacles and attempted the speed approach. Jin Woo could see scorch marks where energy barriers had caught cadets who miscalculated their timing. Several teams had already lost members to medical evacuation. Team 7 went through the barriers one by one, each member timing their movement to the precise second. It took 40 minutes to get everyone through safely. Faster teams would have done it in 5 minutes or failed completely in 2. The second day brought resource management challenges. Food and water were limited. Teams had to balance their consumption against their need to maintain performance. Some teams rationed strictly and moved slowly to conserve energy. Others consumed their resources quickly and relied on speed to finish before they ran out. Team 7 found a middle path. The humans, accustomed to functioning on minimal resources, shared portions of their rations with teammates who needed more fuel to maintain their larger bodies. In return, those teammates took on additional equipment weight that would have slowed the humans down. "Why are you giving me your food?" Rax asked when Jin Woo handed him an extra nutrition bar. "Because you need more calories than I do to function at peak efficiency," Jin Woo replied simply. "And you're carrying my spare ammunition, which means I can move faster. We both benefit." This kind of cooperative efficiency began to show results as other teams struggled with individual limitations. The Xanthari teams were powerful but consumed resources quickly. The Draconian teams were fast but struggled with endurance over extended periods. The Veltar teams were highly coordinated, but had difficulty adapting when their planned strategies failed. Team 7,